And he doesn't shy away.
He's astute, he's direct.
It's a bit of fun, isn't it?
The people of the North East made Labour and they will bury Labour.
Farage clearly carries the success or failure of his party on his shoulders. In private moments, he acknowledges the pressure on him personally is intense.
I don't really do scripted speeches, so I don't get up and read from autocue. I mean, countless times, you know, with 30 seconds to go and I'm behind stage and I think, how am I going to manage? How am I going to be any good? How am I going to let them all down?
So do you worry about letting them down?
Oh, I do, yes. Oh, people have made an effort to come and see you. They've given up their free time to come and hear what you've got to say. But it's doing what I do. I'm living on a drug called adrenaline. And so every day there are a series of highs and lows through doing it.
He also walks a very fine line between articulating what some view as prejudices towards foreigners and others feel are uncomfortable topics stifled by a politically correct elite.
He's an angry man, but he's a sort of angry man with a smile. And that can be disarming and it can be effective. But he can be attractive because he articulates people's prejudices and their fears and their resentments against all sorts of things you're entitled to resent.
We can decide the quantity and the quality of who comes to Britain.
I think Nigel plays on the politics of reality. What he plays on is people's real feelings that immigration is an issue which the other parties are failing to address, or failing to address in a way that satisfies a lot of people.
So how much does the affable demeanour obscure what many regard as a negative message? I asked him about his pint in one hand, cigarette in the other persona. It attracts the sort of voter that actually perhaps won't scrutinise your policies, but just thinks that's the sort of bloke that I want to identify with. There's some dangers in that politically.
Ordinary people work, and many of them go to the pub and have a drink. What on earth is wrong with that? I've done that all my working life, and I'm going to go on doing that. I don't advertise it. I don't.
You do. I mean, we don't see a photograph of you without a pint in your hand. Barely.
Well, it's not. No, believe me, it's not posed. It's what I do naturally.
And you think that's sort of good for mainstream politics?
I don't care. It's what I am. If people like it, they can vote for it. If they don't like it, don't vote for it. It's very simple. I'm not making this up. This is me.
Do you think a mainstream politician would get away with it, though? The endless pints and the fags.
I don't know who these mainstream politicians are.
Well, you do know exactly who they are. They're the people that, you know, have actually, you know, stood for the major parties. And...
But I don't know who they are as people at all. I mean, they all appear to be the same to me. Politically correct, safe, and never really utter an opinion that's actually their own. It's very boring.
Farage likes to differentiate himself from the political class. He didn't go to university, is twice married with 4 children, and is an ex-city metal trader who's lived in or near the same small village south of London his whole life. So these are the sort of lanes and byways of your childhood and your adulthood. This is absolutely your patch, isn't it?
Yeah, we're on the North Kent Downs, and I've always lived around here.
What childhood memories do you have of these sort of... What did you used to get up to?
Just freedom. Freedom. You know, kids were allowed out, you know, with sandwiches and a bottle of water and a bike, and off you went and did things for the day.
Because you were a great forager as well. You liked collecting stuff, didn't you?
I'd go collect things.
So where would you go? I mean, you'd be out in these lanes and fields.
Yes, and sort of, you know, the back of old country houses where in Victorian times they dumped all the rubbish and things like that.
So what sort of things did you used to pick up?
Well, pot lids and bottles and old clay pipes and all sorts of things. Yeah.
So you've got cupboards at home full of stuff?
Sheds, yeah, sheds full of all this stuff I collected, yeah.
So what pleasure does it give you to hoard all that stuff? I mean, it's quite, I suppose it's quite a male thing, really, isn't it?
One day I'll hand it on to somebody who wants it, you know.
Do you think anybody want it?
Well, some of my kids might. I mean, I'm still trying with them. Yeah. Not sure I'm succeeding.
So do you drive your wife mad with boxes of stuff that she'd probably ship out of the house?
I think, yeah, I do find throwing things away very, very difficult.
Farage's dress and demeanour perhaps belie the fact he's only 51, and he seems to revel in a bygone era. His favourite TV show is Dad's Army, his favourite actress, Barbara Windsor, and the actor he'd most like to play him in a film, Terry Thomas. And we were talking before about, you know, UKIP's sort of apparent attachment to perhaps England's glory days. What does that mean to you, and what does that mean to your party?
Well, I want England's glory days to be tomorrow. But at the moment, with the course we're going down, it's probably not going to be. Our leaders don't actually believe in Britain. They don't believe in the country. They don't even think we're competent and capable of running ourselves in our own parliament. I think one of the reasons is this. I think we've been through a couple of decades where we've been told that we almost ought to be ashamed if we sort of say that our nationality is important to us. It was something to be shaming. We must celebrate...
But I mean, look at the London Olympics, for goodness sake. I mean, you can't possibly say that and look at that event and say that.
I think we are now very hungry for a sense of identity and also hungry for success.
Nostalgia and worldviews aside, I wanted to ask Nigel Farage about the present. That weekend, a UKIP MEP had been embroiled in a scandal involving alleged expenses fraud, and another UKIP candidate had quit, alleging racism in the party. It would be hard to imagine you having had a worse weekend.
We had a major problem with one of our MEPs, which has resulted in us taking the harshest disciplinary action. So, yeah, not pleased about that.
Is it any surprise that it's riling sections of the society that, you know, see UKIP as racist?
Most of the people in UKIP that attract this national ire are marginal people without any position of real influence.
Well, what about the guy in the north of England who's just stood down as your candidate, saying that there's open racism in the party?
Well, that's ridiculous. He'd been an activist for 7 years. This time last week, he was singing UKIP's praises. When people fall out, they leave political parties with a parting shot. And that was his. I don't take that seriously at all.
And it's not just his candidates that caught controversy. Let's maybe talk about some of the things that landed you in hot water in the recent weeks. You know, things like saying you'd feel uncomfortable living next to a house load of Romanian men, for example.
I didn't say I would.
What did you say?
I said, the question was, would people feel uncomfortable if a group of Romanian men moved in next door to them? Of course they would. They'd feel uncomfortable if a large group of men of any nationality moved in next door to them. But these things are all used. These things are all used as an excuse to stop the real debate from happening, the real debate behind that. And I now give no opinion on this, because there's no point. Yeah. So you just quote the Metropolitan Police. You know, 28,000 Romanian arrests in London in 5 years. Make your own minds up.
Some people think that even by responding to something like that, you are effectively saying that there are groups of people within our society that are the other. And there's a danger in that, isn't there?
Well, the real danger is you brush it all under the carpet and don't tell anybody. But as I say, I won't give any opinions in future. There's no point. We'll just rely on the Metropolitan Police figures.
He knows only too well how much anger his comments can provoke, and he's usually prepared to take it. But it has been tough on his family. He resolutely keeps them out of the spotlight, but one quiet family Sunday lunch in a pub was recently besieged by protesters, scaring his children. The altercation, a couple of days before we spoke, had left him in reflective mood. Did you say your prayers?
Sometimes.
What do you pray for?
The only prayers I would ever say, actually, would be, which after last Sunday perhaps is more appropriate, you know, would be for my family to be well, and to be happy and to be strong. And I do sometimes think that what I'm doing is making their lives a bit difficult.
That must be quite hard.
Well, you see, if I'd got into the Conservative Party, one of the big parties, you know, and gone to become an MP and was on a career path, perhaps, you know, you could have anticipated longer term what some of the costs might have been, because this was, you know, a little rabble army that suddenly became quite a big political party. So it's some of it's come as a bit of a surprise, yeah.
Whether or not Nigel Farage does achieve a breakthrough in terms of Westminster seats remains to be seen. And this make-or-break moment is one on which his own political future rests, and possibly that of his party's. How long do you envisage leading this party?
I have decided that I will stand down before the 2030 general election.
The 2030 general election?
I think so.
So you think you've got a long time in politics yet? You're not setting your terms of
Oh, no, I've barely started.
Whether you see him as a rebel spirit or dangerous dogmatist peddling prejudice, Nigel Farage has undeniably put a rocket up the political establishment. But he knows as fast as rockets fly, so too they may fall to earth. May the 7th is his and UKIP's biggest test yet.